I was working the front desk at a boutique hotel in Copenhagen when an American businessman walked in, dragging his suitcase across our freshly mopped floor. It was around 9 p.m. on a Thursday. He slapped his credit card on the counter and said, "Room for tonight. King bed. Non-smoking. No greeting. No eye contact. Just demands." I looked up and smiled anyway. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Copenhagen. May I have your reservation number?" He frowned. "I just told you what I need. Can we speed this up?" That's when I realized he thought I was being slow on purpose. The thing is, in Denmark, we start with pleasantries. Always. It's not optional customer service theater. It's basic respect. But he kept huffing, checking his watch, treating our normal check-in process like I was deliberately wasting his time. When I asked for his passport, he pulled out his driver's license. "This should work," he said. I explained. "We needed a passport for international guests." He looked genuinely shocked. "But I showed this at the airport." I had to explain that hotels and airports have different requirements. He seemed insulted, like I was making up rules to hassle him specifically. Last month, I was helping a couple from Texas find their room. They'd been walking in circles on the 3rd floor for 10 minutes. When I caught up with them, the wife said, "Your room numbers make no sense. We're looking for 301, but we keep finding 301A and 301B. I had to explain that European floors start at ground level, so the 1st floor is actually the 2nd floor by American counting. They stared at me like I'd just explained quantum physics. The husband muttered, "Well, that's just confusing for no reason." Then there was the woman at a cafe in Amsterdam, American, mid-30s, sitting at a table for 20 minutes. The server told me she kept waving him over, snapping her fingers, calling "excuse me" across the room. She wanted more water, another napkin, extra sugar. Each time, he'd walk over slowly, somewhat coldly. She finally asked to speak to a manager because the service was unacceptably slow and rude. The manager explained that in Dutch cafes, you're paying for the table. Not just the food, you're expected to sit and relax. Constant checking in is seen as rushing customers out. She left a 1-star review anyway. But that was just the beginning of what I've learned about how Americans move through the world. They're not trying to be difficult. Most of them are genuinely confused. The problem is deeper than bad manners or ignorance. It's about invisible assumptions. Americans grow up in a country where their way of doing things is treated as the default, the standard, the obvious choice. When they travel, they don't realize they're carrying a lens that distorts everything they see. And when reality doesn't match that lens, they think reality is broken. I work as a pharmacist in Munich, and Americans always bring me the most interesting problems. One guy, probably late 20s, came in with a prescription from his doctor back in California. It was on regular paper, handwritten, crumpled from being in his backpack. He handed it over and said, "I need this filled today. I'm leaving tomorrow." I looked at the prescription. It was for Adderall, 60 pills, 3 refills authorized. I had to explain that German pharmacies don't accept foreign prescriptions, especially not for controlled substances. He looked at me like I'd just told him we don't believe in medicine. "But it's a legitimate prescription," he said. "From a real doctor. You can call and verify." I explained that German drug regulations are different, that he'd need to see a German doctor, get a new prescription following German protocols. His face went red. "That's ridiculous. It's the same medication. It works the same way everywhere." I wanted to explain that drug classification varies wildly between countries, that what's easily prescribed in America might be heavily restricted elsewhere. But he was already pulling out his phone to look up pharmacies that actually help people. Another time, a woman in her 50s came in asking for regular Tylenol, the normal kind. I showed her paracetamol. She squinted at the box. "No, I need Tylenol. Tylenol. I explained that Tylenol is just a brand name, that paracetamol is the same active ingredient. She didn't believe me. She made me show her the chemical composition on the box. Even then, she seemed suspicious, like maybe German paracetamol was somehow different, inferior. She bought it reluctantly and came back the next day to say, I guess it worked, but I still don't understand why you can't just call it the right name. The measurement thing drives me crazy. A guy came in needing children's fever reducer for his daughter. Asked her weight to determine the dosage. He said, like 45 pounds? I stared at him. I asked if he knew her weight in kilograms. He looked panicked. I don't know, man. How am I supposed to convert that? I pulled out a calculator and did it for him. 20 kilograms. He watched me write it down and said, "Why do you guys make everything so complicated? Pounds work fine." I didn't have the energy to explain that literally the entire world uses metric, and the complicated part is America clinging to imperial measurements. Then there was the woman who wanted antibiotics without a prescription. She'd had a sinus infection and knew exactly what she needed. Just give me the Z-Pack. I've taken it before. I know it works. I explained that antibiotics require a prescription in Germany. No exceptions. She acted like I was personally attacking her freedom. In America, we have urgent care clinics. You just walk in, get what you need, and leave. This is so bureaucratic. I tried to explain that antibiotic resistance is a serious global health concern, that Germany's stricter rules help prevent overuse. But she just wanted her medicine. She left angry. Probably went to 3 more pharmacies, hoping for a different answer. I had an American college student come in once. Study abroad kid, asking for birth control. She had an empty pill pack from the States. Can you just refill this? Same prescription. Just need more. I explained the process, that she'd need a German gynecologist, a new prescription. She got teary. But I'm only here for 4 months. I can't just stop taking it. That's not how it works. That one I actually felt bad about. I gave her information for a nearby clinic. Explained they could see her quickly. She thanked me, but looked exhausted, like navigating a simple medical need had become this massive ordeal. I'm a tour guide in Prague, and American tourists have taught me that U.S. geography education must be in crisis. Last summer, I had a middle-aged couple from Florida on my Old Town walking tour. We were standing in front of the astronomical clock, and I mentioned that Prague is the capital of the Czech Republic. The wife interrupted me. "Wait, I thought Prague was the capital of Czechoslovakia," I explained gently. The Czechoslovakia split into 2 countries in 1993, the Czech Republic and Slovakia, separate nations for over 30 years now. She looked embarrassed but also defensive. Well, nobody tells you these things. Her husband made it worse. So is Czech Republic part of Russia now? I actually had to pause. I explained that the Czech Republic is an independent country, a member of the European Union and NATO, very much not part of Russia. He seemed unconvinced. But you guys use the same kind of alphabet, right? Cyrillic. I explained we use the Latin alphabet, same as English, just with some accent marks. The confusion on his face was genuine. He really thought all of Eastern Europe was somehow Russian adjacent. I had a younger guy, maybe 22, backpacking through Europe. Smart kid, studying engineering. We were talking about European history, and he asked, "So when did Prague get taken over by the Germans? Was that World War I or II?" I explained the Nazi occupation during World War II, the liberation, the subsequent communist era under Soviet influence. He nodded along, then asked, "And you guys got independence from Germany when?" I had to explain again that the Czech Republic was never part of Germany. Occupied, yes. Controlled, yes. But not a German territory. He looked so confused. Then why is Prague so close to Berlin? A family from Texas once asked me if we use the euro in Prague. I said yes. The dad looked relieved. "Oh, good. So you're part of the European Union," I confirmed. He seemed proud of himself for knowing that. Then his teenage son asked, "So do you guys have your own president, or does the EU control everything?" I explained that the Czech Republic has its own government, president, parliament, and laws. The EU is an economic and political union, not a single country. The son said, "Okay, but do you have your own military?" "Yes." "Your own money?" "Yes, the koruna, though many tourists use euros, so then what's the point of the EU?" That's a question I don't have time to answer on a 2-hour walking tour. One woman asked me if people in Prague speak Czechoslovakian. I said we speak Czech. She asked what the difference was, explained that Czech and Slovak are related, but distinct languages, like Spanish and Portuguese. She said, "Okay, but you can understand each other, right?" Sort of, with effort. So it's basically the same language. I gave up on that one. Later, she asked if we're closer to Austria or Hungary. I said both are neighboring countries. She looked at her phone, studying a map. But Austria is tiny. How is it a whole country? I didn't have a good answer for that either. I manage a small restaurant in Barcelona, and the American approach to dining never stops surprising me. A couple came in one evening, around 10 p.m., which is early dinner by Spanish standards. They sat down and immediately started snapping their fingers to get the server's attention. He was helping another table. They snapped again. When he finally came over, they ordered waters and asked for the check. Before ordering food, the server looked confused. "You want the bill now?" The man said, "No, we want to order, but we're in a hurry. Bring the bill with the food so we can leave fast." The server tried to explain, "That's not how we do things," that he'd bring the check after they finish eating. The man got frustrated. "Look, we have a show to catch. We need to be in and out in 30 minutes. Can you make that happen?" The server said he'd try, but couldn't make promises. Spanish dining is slow, intentional. The kitchen doesn't rush. The couple ordered quickly, barely looking at the menu. Patatas bravas, gambas al ajillo, pan con tomate. Tourist classics. When the food came, they ate fast, barely tasting anything. Then they sat there, waiting, looking around impatiently. After 10 minutes, the man started waving at servers, trying to get someone to bring the check. Nobody came immediately. He got angrier. "This is ridiculous. We're done eating. Why won't anyone bring the bill?" Finally, our senior server went over and explained that in Spain, the check isn't brought until you ask for it. It's considered rude to rush diners out. The man said, "We are asking for it. We've been asking for 15 minutes. The server calmly brought the check. The couple paid, left no tip, and walked out muttering about terrible service. I had another American, solo traveler, mid-30s, come in for lunch. She ordered a salad and a glass of wine. When the food arrived, she took one bite and called the server over. "This has raw onions. I can't eat raw onions." The server apologized and offered to bring a new salad. She said, "I shouldn't have to wait for a new salad. This should have been right the first time." The server, very politely, pointed out that the menu description listed onions as an ingredient. She snapped, "Yeah, but I assumed they'd be cooked. Who puts raw onions in a salad?" The server took the salad back and brought a new one without onions. She ate half of it, then pushed it away and asked for the check. When it came, she saw the full charge for the salad. She called the server back. "Why am I paying for this? It wasn't what I expected." The server explained that she ordered it, ate half, and we corrected the issue by remaking it. She argued that in America, if there's a problem with food, it's taken off the bill automatically. That's customer service 101. The server got the manager. I explained that we fixed the problem by providing a new dish. The issue was a misunderstanding, not an error on our part. She paid, but left a long review about how Spanish restaurants don't understand customer satisfaction. Then there was the group of 4, all American, probably late 20s. They came in around 9 p.m., which is still early for dinner here. They ordered sangria, a few tapas, nothing heavy. They ate, talked, laughed. Seemed like a good time. Then they sat there, and sat there. 2 hours later, they were still at the table, 1 pitcher of sangria deep, snacking on olives we bring complimentary. They weren't ordering more food, just occupying the table. During our busy Friday night dinner rush, I eventually went over, very politely, and asked if they'd like to order anything else. They said no. They were good. I gently mentioned that we had people waiting for tables. One guy looked surprised. "Wait, are you trying to kick us out?" I explained we're not kicking anyone out, but in Spain, if you're finished eating and the restaurant is full, it's customary to pay and free up the table. He seemed offended. In the States, you can sit at a restaurant as long as you want. Nobody rushes you. I explained that in Spain, that's true if the restaurant isn't busy, but during rush times, turnover matters. They left grudgingly, complaining about feeling pressured. The best one happened to my colleague who works the rental desk at a car rental agency in Reykjavik. An American family showed up, parents and 2 kids, ready to drive the ring road. They'd booked a standard sedan. When they saw the car, the father immediately said, "This isn't going to work. We need something bigger." My colleague explained that was the car they'd reserved and paid for. The father said, "Yeah, but we didn't realize Iceland roads were so bad. We need an SUV, a big one." My colleague explained that upgrading would cost significantly more, and all the larger SUVs were booked for the week. The father got insistent. "Look, we're American. We're not used to these tiny cars. This is unsafe." My colleague, very calmly, pointed out that Icelanders drive these cars every day without issue, and the ring road is fully paved. The father wasn't having it. In America, everyone drives SUVs. It's just safer. I need you to find us a proper vehicle. My colleague pulled up their reservation again and noticed they'd selected automatic transmission only. That limited options significantly. She asked if anyone could drive manual. The father said no. She explained that automatic SUVs were completely booked, but they had manual options available. The father looked at her like she'd suggested they drive a horse-drawn carriage. Nobody drives stick anymore. That's ancient technology. My colleague, an Icelander who learned to drive on a manual when she was 17, just smiled and said, "Most of the world drives manual. Automatic is the luxury exception." The family ended up taking the sedan. They complained the whole time, but they took it. My colleague told me they returned it a week later with the side mirror slightly damaged and tried to argue it wasn't their fault because the roads are too narrow. They wanted the damage waiver to cover it. My colleague pointed to the contract they'd signed, declining the extra insurance. The father said they didn't understand what they were declining because it was all in legal language. My colleague pulled up the contract. It was in plain English, under a section literally titled Damage Coverage. He paid the fee, still insisting it was somehow unfair. These stories keep coming because the root issue isn't about bad travelers or clueless tourists. It's about a country that's taught its people that their way of living is not just valid, but universal, default. Correct. When Americans travel, they're not preparing to encounter different systems. They're expecting the world to accommodate them. And when it doesn't, they think something's broken. Not their assumptions, the world. The funny thing is, most of them are genuinely nice people. They're not trying to be difficult. They just genuinely can't see their own blind spot. And that blind spot is huge. It's geography. It's measurements. It's social norms, service expectations, cultural contexts they've never had to consider. The world is full of nuance, and America spent so long being powerful enough to ignore it that its citizens forgot nuance exists. And these stories? They never stop coming. Every week there's a new one. Every shift brings another moment where someone from the States walks into a situation they didn't know existed, armed with confidence and completely lacking context. It's exhausting. It's fascinating, and it's not stopping anytime soon.